motor neurons and sensory neurons. The motor division is further divided into the somatic nervous system, which controls voluntary movements, and the autonomic nervous system, which controls involuntary functions. The autonomic nervous system itself has two divisions: sympathetic, which prepares the body for fight or flight responses, and parasympathetic, which promotes rest and digest activities, functions of nervous system. The nervous system controls most of the body's functions and helps maintain homeostasis, keeping our internal environment balanced. It also programs spinal cord reflexes, provides voluntary control of movement, and processes sensations and thoughts. Beyond that, it is responsible for memory and learning, allowing us to store information and adapt to new experiences. The brain is composed of three main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. Each of these plays a unique role in controlling different functions of the body and mind. The central nervous system develops Diencephalon, also called the hindbrain, which later divides further into the metencephalon and myelencephalon. These form structures like the pons, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. The brain is the most complex part of the human body and is divided into four major parts. Brainstem includes the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata 2. Diencephalon consists of the thalamus, hypothalamus, and pineal gland. Cerebrum 4. Cerebellum. The brainstem, made up of the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata, serves as a vital relay center, connecting the cerebrum and cerebellum to the spinal cord. It controls many automatic, involuntary functions that are essential for survival. Its three main components are the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is located between the pons and the spinal cord. It contains important centers that control vital autonomic functions, such as heart rate, emotions, and hormone release. The hypothalamus acts as the master control of the autonomic nervous system, helping to maintain homeostasis by regulating many essential body functions. These include hunger and body weight, water and electrolyte balance, which affects thirst, sleep and wakefulness, body temperature, blood pressure and heart rate, sexual response and hormone secretion from the pituitary gland. In short, the hypothalamus keeps the body balanced and ensures it responds appropriately to internal and external changes. The pineal gland is a tiny endocrine gland located in the middle of the brain. It helps regulate the body's circadian rhythm, which is essentially our internal clock. The pineal gland also secretes melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep and helps control sleep-wake cycles. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, made up of the right and left like thinking, reasoning, and memory. Some key terms to know: a gyrus, plural. Gyri is a fold or ridge in the cortex. A sulcus, plural, sulci, is a groove between the folds. Together, these folds and grooves maximize the brain's processing power in a limited space. The corpus callosum is the brain's primary commissural region, made up of white matter tracts that connect the left and right cerebral hemispheres. It facilitates communication between the two hemispheres, allowing them to work together efficiently. Corpus callosum is the largest white matter structure in the brain, containing around 200 to 250 million myelinated axons. The cerebellum is a major structure of the hindbrain, located near the brainstem and positioned under the cerebrum. It plays a key role in controlling voluntary movements, including balance coordination, walking posture, and 2 vertebral level. The conus medullaris is the tapered, cone-shaped end of the spinal cord. The spinal cord serves as the main pathway for sensory information traveling up to the brain and motor commands descending to the body. In addition, vertebral ligaments provide extra protection and stability for this vital structure. The spinal cord is enclosed within the vertebral canal and protected by the meninges and cerebrospinal fluid. Its conus medullaris is the tapered, cone-shaped end of the spinal cord. Below this lies the cauda equina, a bundle of lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal nerve roots that extend downward. Finally, the filum terminal is a slender, fibrous extension of the pia mater that anchors the spinal cord to the coccyx, providing additional stability. A spinal nerve is a mixed nerve, carrying motor, sensory, and autonomic signals between the spinal cord and the rest of the body. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves, with one on each side of the vertebral column. 8 cervical nerves, 12 thoracic nerves, 5 lumbar nerves, nerve. From the pons originate the 5th nerve trigeminal, 6th nerve abducens, 7th nerve facial, and the 8th nerve vestibulocochlear, which comes from the lateral rectus and superior oblique. It also regulates pupil constriction and lens accommodation. The Fouth cranial nerve. Trochlear nerve controls eye movement, specifically the superior oblique muscle. Next, let's look at cranial nerves 5 through 8. The 5th cranial nerve. Trigeminal is responsible for facial sensation, including touch, pain, and temperature, and controls the muscles of mastication for chewing. The 6th cranial nerve abducens controls eye movement, specifically the lateral rectus muscle. The 7th cranial nerve. Facial nerve governs facial expressions, provides taste sensation from the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, and controls salivary and lacrimal glands. The 8th cranial nerve. Vestibulocochlear has 2 branches, the cochlear branch for hearing and the vestibular branch for balance and spatial orientation. Finally, let's cover cranial nerves 9 through 12. The 9 cranial nerve, glossopharyngeal, provides taste sensation from the posterior 1/3 of the tongue and assists in swallowing. The 10 cranial nerve, vagus, regulates many autonomic functions, including digestion, heart rate, and more. The 11th cranial nerve accessory controls shoulder and neck muscle movement. The 12th cranial hypoglossal is responsible for tongue movement. The peripheral nervous system, PNS, consists of nerves that branch out from the brain and spinal cord, connecting the central nervous system, CNS, to the rest of the body. It is made up of nerves and ganglia, which form a communication network between the CNS and body parts. The PNS is further subdivided into the somatic nervous system, which controls voluntary movements, and the autonomic nervous system, which regulates involuntary functions. The PNS is further subdivided into 2 main systems. The somatic nervous system, which controls voluntary movements, and the autonomic nervous system, which regulates involuntary functions. The primary function of the peripheral nervous system, PNS, is to connect the central nervous system, CNS, to the rest of the body. The PNS is made up of nerves and ganglia, which are clusters of nerve cell bodies. Essentially, the PNS acts as a relay system, transmitting signals between the brain, spinal cord, and the limbs and organs to coordinate both voluntary and involuntary activities. The autonomic nervous system, or ANS, is the part of the nervous system that unconsciously regulates involuntary body functions and internal organs. The ANS has two main divisions: the sympathetic nervous system, which prepares the body for fight or flight responses, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes rest and digest activities. Let's look at the sympathetic nervous system, also called the fight or flight system. It originates from the thoracic and lumbar regions of the spinal cord, thoracic 1 and lumbar 2 and 3. Its main role is to prepare the body for stress or emergencies. Key effects include increased heart rate, dilated pupils, and inhibited digestion. The neurotransmitters involved are acetylcholine in preganglionic fibers and norepinephrine or epinephrine in postganglionic fibers, with acetylcholine, used for sweat glands. Now, let's look at the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest system. It originates from cranial nerves 3, 7, 9, and 10, as well as the sacral spinal cord, scroll 2 and scroll 4. Its main role is to maintain the body at rest, promoting digestion and recovery. Key effects include decreased heart rate, constricted pupils, and stimulated digestion. The primary neurotransmitter is acetylcholine, ACE, used in both preganglionic and postganglionic fibers. The sympathetic nervous system prepares the body for stressful or emergency situations, increasing heart rate, dilating pupils, and inhibiting digestion, often called the fight or flight system. In contrast, the parasympathetic nervous system promotes rest, recovery, and energy conservation, slowing the heart rate, constricting pupils, and stimulating digestion, and is known as the rest and digest system. The brain receives blood from two main sources: the internal carotid arteries, which arise from the common carotid arteries at the neck, and the vertebral arteries, which ascend through the cervical vertebrae into the skull. The internal carotid arteries then branch into two major arteries: the anterior cerebral artery, ACA, and the middle cerebral artery, MCA, both of which supply critical areas of the brain with oxygen and nutrients. The circle of Willis is a ring of interconnected arteries at the base of the brain. It links the anterior and posterior circulations of the brain, providing collateral blood flow in case one pathway is blocked or narrowed. The main vessels forming the circle of Willis include internal carotid arteries, anterior cerebral arteries, ACA, anterior communicating artery, posterior cerebral arteries, PCA, posterior communicating arteries, basilar artery, and the vertebral arteries. This structure is crucial for maintaining continuous blood supply to the brain. Brain cell damage or death. There are two main types of stroke: ischemic stroke, caused by a blood clot or blockage, and hemorrhagic stroke, caused by bleeding into the brain. The gold standard treatment for ischemic stroke is intravenous recombinant tissue plasminogen activator, TPA, which helps dissolve the clot and restore blood flow. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder that primarily affects cognitive function, memory, and behavior. Ituing is the most common cause of dementia, a condition involving a decline in memory, thinking, behavior, and the ability to perform daily tasks. The neurodegeneration seen in Alzheimer's is linked to the abnormal accumulation of protein aggregates in the brain, including beta-amyloid plaques. Genetic factors can also play a role, such as mutations in the amyloid precursor protein, APP, due to insufficient folic acid, which is essential for proper fetal neural development. Causes can include genetic factors, such as mutations or abnormalities affecting neural tube formation. Environmental factors, including low folic acid intake, maternal obesity, uncontrolled diabetes, or certain medications. session.